After I came back from my bathroom break, I started working on graphical overlays. I made some placeholder numbers in the size I figured the numbers were going to be. Made placeholder life indicators. And now I'm in my draw loop for the game. And I'm counting up to the number of lives and drawing a heart, moving the X position of each heart to correspond to the number I'm counting. So I have a row of hearts. Little typo, I was doing var I in player.lives, but player.lives isn't a collection, so it needs to be a comparison-y for loop with semicolons. So now we have those hearts for lives. And then I'm going to draw the score. Take the player's score, cast it to a string, then go through each character in the string. Cast that character back to a number, so I've broken the score into numbers, into individual digits. And then for each digit, I use the digit value to look up in the sprite sheet we had to draw it. And I draw each digit 32 pixels to the right of the previous digit. Then in the console, I'm just testing out different scores to make sure they work. And so there we have it. The score is getting drawn. I centered it. Now I'm thinking, though, I don't want to center it. I want to have the word score before it. So I'm changing it to draw that. And putting the score to the left of there. The word score to the left of there. And I had to sit here thinking for a second about the coordinates. And there we go. So now I have the word score to the left of the score, and it's all shifted over from the center. Then I decided I actually want to center it slightly differently, so I just changed my numbers a little for the centering. So now the word score is centered, and the score is always to the right of that off-center, which I decided was what I wanted. But I discovered another little problem where the enemies weren't showing up on screen because their speed was moving them further than the screen size every frame, so I had a cap to enemy max speed. Now if your score gets very high, the enemies are staying on screen. They're ridiculously lethal. You can't win at that point. It's a kill screen, but it's at least doing something comprehensible. You're never going to get that score, of course. You're going to get gradually close to that score and eventually die. And then I worry about adding a little indicator for the game pause instead of just changing the background color. So I just make a thing, just a placeholder graphic that's the size I expect the text to become. I'm not making the final graphic, just getting the sizes right and putting the sprite sheet coordinates down. So then I'll go back and fill in the sprite sheet later. So I'm taking that and centering it, and now whenever the game's paused, the draw loop for the game does that. And I'm realizing now that I don't want pausing in certain situations. If the player is already lost the game, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to pause. So I'm adding this can pause now function, and I'm calling that every time the game considers pausing. And I only pause if we're playing the game, the player object exists, and you have lives left or you're undamaged on your last life. So the game's not over yet, therefore you can pause. And now I'm making it so you can't use your double jump after getting hit, which is just a weird little thing I'd forgotten. The player code wasn't accounting for every possible button you might press while damaged. And then, likewise, we need a game over overlay instead of just doing nothing when the game ends. So if we're on our last life and damaged, then I realized let's just have a game over flag that's distinct from other information about the player. So we just check is the game over. That way the game doesn't end until the player's actually fallen off the bottom of the screen, which I otherwise wouldn't have a flag for. So then if game over is set, then we go ahead and draw this overlay at its coordinates. I copy and paste from the pause and change the numbers because they're almost the same thing. Now I set my lives to the in console and die to see what happens. And I have to actually save my sprite sheet after updating it. And there we go. Game over's there. Next thing is for that game over to then go somewhere instead of forcing you to reload the page. For that, I'm setting player game over timer, counting how much game over time is left. And then that counts down every frame. And over in my game frame state, at the end of the frame, if the game over time has expired, we go back to the title screen. Of course, for that to happen, we need to have a title screen. So I'm going ahead and all the initialization stuff that happened originally, I'm splitting up between the basic initialization that has to happen and the game initialization, which will happen after the title screen. Like making an init title screen and an init game screen. And an on-title screen variable telling me which screen I'm on. Then each frame, what I do depends on which screen I'm on. I advance the game frame or I advance the title screen frame. And all the title screen frame is going to do is call init game once the player has hit the start key, which is going to be the jump key. So the player hits their jump key. And then on draw frame, likewise I split between the drawing of the game screen and the drawing of the title screen. For now, the title screen is going to be a solid red canvas. So there we go, we load it, it's solid red canvas. Press W and I start the game jumping because my title screen wasn't clearing the keys fresh array. So, there we go. You press jump to start, and that doesn't also count as jump in the first frame of the game. Then little typo fixing. I had game over time instead of game over timer at one point. And then I have this issue where it keeps resetting the game over timer to 120 every frame because it knows like, hey, the player's in the game over enabling state, let's set the timer. So I have to make it so it only sets the game over when it's not already game over. And there we go, it worked. I got back to the title screen. Now I'm saying this last score variable, so after I no longer care about the player object, there's still a trace of what the score was, so I can show on the title screen the score from the game. This might not be strictly necessary as the player object hasn't been destroyed, but I'm thinking about it semantically, it's an invalid object once I'm off the game screen. So I'm just setting it up to be able to do that. I also had a little tweak in there where the player can't attack while dying. I'm not sure if he could or not before, but it wasn't clear from the code, so I just added a explicit thing, you can't attack while you're dying. I'm just adding in the code to make that last score value update, and I'm going to make it draw. Take the score code from the game code, move it into the title screen code. If last score is greater than 0, or greater than equal to 0, I initialize it at -1 at load time, so it doesn't get greater than equal to 0 to start, but it will after your first game. And I'm testing it out. Going into the console, manually futzing with the score, and everything worked out. Now, that title screen shouldn't just be a big red blob. It should come from somewhere. I'm going to draw a title screen on the sprite sheet. So that's what I'm doing, making a placeholder one. I got the size wrong that time, because it's actually 1280 wide, and it wasn't wide enough. I'm noticing that now, going in, measuring out my coordinates, getting the right width, making a big black area at the bottom so the score display will show up. And then it doesn't work at all because I forgot to close a parenthesis, and then it works. And I die, and after I die, my score is there when I set my last score to actually be a value. It had only updated when the player gained a point, so dying at 0 points never actually changed the last score value from its -1 default. In the next video, I work on sounds. I go back to real-time narration while I'm doing it for that one because it actually gets interesting and technical in a way that's worth talking about the individual JavaScript lines again. I'll see you for that one. Bye.